Hello, world. This is Two Grumpy Old Men. I'm Tim Bagwell, and with me is my partner in this situation, Mr. Rich Garling. Hey, Rich, what are we talking about today?
Today, Tim, oh boy, we got a lot we could talk about. But I think let's talk about how there's chaos in the Republican Party. That they are slowly uh, pulling themselves apart. Give a bunch of different examples here. One in particular that I was looking at just the other day, and wondering, especially after I saw her on The View, is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay, coming out and she has been butting heads for what the last several weeks now, with Trump. I mean, to the point to where Trump is sitting there and calling her a traitor and telling her he's gonna remove his endorsement of her.
Right.
Doesn't want her running for the U.S. Senate seat in Georgia, even though she does. All right, so there's some question as to what caused Marjorie to turn, all of a sudden, and is it really truly her turning on him, or is there something else going on here? And that wouldn't
Right.
wouldn't surprise me
Right.
with Marjorie Taylor Greene. And two things that are possibilities here are that she wanted to run for U.S. Senate, and Trump basically told her no. Instead, Trump is toying with the idea of endorsing some football coach, a guy with the last name of Dooley. Let me see, Derek Dooley. He's a former college football coach, has no political experience whatsoever, but apparently he kissed Donald Trump's ass enough, that Donald Trump thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. At least for the moment. I guess the thing that I always got a kick out of with Donald Trump is that he demands total loyalty, but yet he gives none in return.
Right.
you know,
Right.
and there's a lot of people out there who just don't seem to notice that, for some reason
Well,
or
I
another.
remember, I don't know, it was January 6th chaos or one of the chaotic times in Congress, and you can see that she had Trump on her phone, and she's showing to people that she's in contact with Trump. Should be doing what Trump's saying. She's doing that in the House.
Yeah, yeah,
Like she's the spokesperson for Trump among all the Republicans.
yeah. I
And
got him on the
wow,
phone here. I got him on the phone here.
yeah, yeah,
Kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
a memorable episode there, Marjorie. And
yeah,
yeah, the Senate race is one thing, and then and I don't know with the chicken or egg, but there was ACA with
yeah.
her kids,
Right.
ACA potential with her kids, and of course this is I'm reminded of Mrs. Reagan and stem cell research.
Uh
Yeah, all of a sudden, oh wait, we got to change that policy.
huh. Oh,
It affects
it's
me personally, so therefore now we have to change the policy, and we need to do
exactly,
research.
exactly.
Yeah,
And that,
yeah.
well, remember when Ryan was Speaker of the House way back when, and it came out that here's a guy who's against anything to do with Social Security and all this, but yet he managed to benefit from it when he was a teenager because one of his parents had gone on disability.
Ah,
And I remember this because my mother was on Social Security disability, and I got a check, and my little sister got a check, and my older brother got a check from Social Security because she was on disability, and this was supposed to help. And I remember looking at this and going, I don't really want this, you know. But my mother told me, no, you have to take it. I go, why? And all this, and but yet here's
the
Ryan,
way of the world.
years later, sitting there trying to deny people access to that money,
Right.
and yet he benefited from it. So
Yeah.
I find
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Republicans to this day still do that crap. Go
I
ahead.
think Marjorie is hooking on to whatever the latest thing is because as I remember the ACA, and of course there's the non-endorsement from Trump or withdrew the endorsement. Was it the withdrawal? It was withdrawal, right? Or he decided he was
He
not going
withdrew.
to.
Well, he withdrew her endorsement for Congress, calling her a traitor, amongst other words that he decided to
Marjorie
use.
Trader Green.
Right, right. Oh, and he also changed her last name to Brown because grass rots apparently.
Yeah,
Shows you the great understanding he has of how grass grows.
exactly. Not that he's ever mowed a leaf.
Yeah.
Weed wise. Yeah, whatever you're
Well,
calling it.
I mean, if he had ever taken care of a
Right.
lawn in his life, he'd know that when it turns brown, it's only dormant because you need to water it. It doesn't
That's
necessarily die.
yes.
and,
But then another thing that jumped forward related to ACA in general about the economy was affordability, because she's on the affordability bandwagon now. Um,
uh-huh.
so
Uh-huh.
I've seen one spoof where they're saying she was a clandestine liberal.
And of course he used his old traditional favorite of calling her a rhino. I got a kick out of
Right.
that one. He also called her a ranting lunatic, and saying he would support a primary challenger if she ran for the Senate. And that and so I find it quite interesting. By the way, she also um, uh, broke with him on several issues, one including his handling of House Speaker Mike Johnson and his stance on the Ukraine aid. So
Right.
she doesn't like it that
Yeah.
Speaker Johnson, MAGA MAGA Johnson is a puppet with strings over his head, so that you're controlling how what he
And what they don't
does.
seem to understand about politics is that it's okay to have all these conflicts, but you're better off not playing them out in public, because we can't trust her. All of a sudden, she's sporting stuff we like,
Yeah.
but you just seem to go with the wind, baby. You just seem to be
Yes.
going with yeah, yeah. So therefore, you're
Exactly.
not exactly trustworthy. You're not exactly
Exactly.
trustworthy, and you still have an R after your name.
Yeah.
So you bring up the chaos of the Republicans, and I was thinking when you said that, I thought, they've really stolen the Democratic branding. We used to be the party of chaos.
Yes.
Yes, but now we
You
may
know,
be laying quiet. Some have criticized us for laying a little too quiet, especially some of our elder members. But the it's that dormancy of that laying quiet is in contrast to the craziness of the other side.
yeah. Yeah. And who was it you mentioned earlier? Oh, a guy named Tom Massey. Just to show that Marjorie Taylor Greene's not the only one in the party who's starting to break ranks with Trump. What was it
He
that you
was the
said?
real. He was out in front. He's the only Republican at first. He's the only Republican that was on the Epstein files. That was onto the Epstein files. He was supporting that. He stood strong, and when we look ahead, what when you were when we look at the Republican leadership,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
you
Well, we
look.
don't. Their bench isn't very much, and that really doesn't. Well, and you think about this too. It's Donald Trump that's holding that party together. He controls it. He controls every aspect of it that he possibly can. And so think about this. Should he be unable, for whatever reason, unable to actually, be the president. Okay.
Right.
Now, mind you, right now we can, a lot of us can sit there and go, "Oh, he's unable to be president right now." Well, that's neither here nor there. He's still the president at the moment, unfortunately, but should he, let's say, physically unable to, because of illness or whatever, has a heart attack, has a stroke, okay, he dies, or something of that nature, okay,
All
all
risk
hell.
factors in any job.
Yeah, all hell's going to break loose, in the Republican Party because none of them have the control over the party, have the loyalty of the party ranks that he has.
Right.
That
He's not
like
one.
like I was saying earlier, he demands total loyalty, but he doesn't give it back in return.
Well,
But
this is the problem in dictatorships. And dictatorships that are they have succession problems, because because if you get too far out in front of the glorious leader, you're not found the next day.
right, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. He
yeah,
squashes you like a bug.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then, I mean,
So
you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. She used to be, practically tied to the hip with him, and now she isn't, and she's persona non grata as far as Trump is
yeah,
concerned.
as far as
You
Trump
know,
is concerned, but she may be gaining. Well, she's going to gain maybe something in Georgia, but not much else anywhere else. They have
right?
no presidential. There's no presidential. Yeah, so if he were to be for whatever reason incapacitated, let's say, you've got, you have J.D. Vance standing in, and then you've got Mike Johnson barking at the door, and I don't think those two are really going to be that cooperative. With
Well,
each
Marco
other.
Rubio's going to be in there trying to, come back,
That's right too. And that's right
and
too.
that, and who, there's, there's all kinds of people. Look at this guy Brendan Carr, who the with the FCC. All right, now there's an interesting piece of work.
Yeah.
you
Well,
know,
these guys' mouths could go off. The Treasury Secretary Scott, whatever his last name is, begins with a B.
yeah,
Uh, yeah. He just looks like he's got his nose so far in the air. I mean, he's the classic nose in the air. I can't feel anything for you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He's funny.
Brennan? Is it a Brennan? That's not a Brennan.
Hang on a second, I'm looking it up.
We're not the smartest old.
Let's see what we got here. Uh, and yes, folks, we do use a computer upon occasion to, to look up pieces of information, and that.
Oh, without saying it out loud, so that we break with protocol.
Yeah, and that. Let's see. So, yeah, it's just you think about it. He's just not.
Yeah, there's nobody in the cabinet is presidential. Rubio
Right,
stood a chance a long
right.
time ago, but he's really he always looked like he'd like to leave the room. Why am I here? I can't believe this is happening to me. I thought there would be some sort of succession here, and it's not. And they're probably all fearful that one of the sons is going to step up and try to be the man, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's no. And in the meanwhile, well,
Oh,
so tomorrow is the Epstein vote.
that's true. That's
And
true.
here we have
Yes,
the
it is.
separation of the courageous from the. Uh, uh, let's see, what's a good analogy here? I'm thinking of the Poseidon Adventure a little bit. Who's going to survive the sinking ship? Because all those who vote all those who vote not to release, they're just pretty much kissing their ass goodbye politically.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
even the diehard Trump supporters are demanding that those
Yeah.
files be turned out, and now Trump himself is sitting there telling the House of Representatives, "Yeah, go ahead, release the files. I encourage you to do so." But
Oh
they could
yes.
they could vote on a bill that says or basically a bill of some sort that says, "Hey, release those files. We want to see those files." Senate has got to take a look at it and say the same thing, right?
Right. He's got to
Okay,
sign off on
and then Trump's got to sign off on it, so he can sit there and go, "Oh yeah, they supported it, but I don't."
it. Right. But
There's nothing
do they
there,
have enough to
to look at.
override? Will be the case. And of course, when he says he doesn't support it, then the cat's okay. The cat should be out of the bag, but it's obvious that he does not want any of that. Here's the curious thing: he doesn't necessarily know what's in the files. He doesn't know necessarily what all the email and other file exchanges look like. But he's awful dang fearful of it, whatever it is. You know, you know, the
Uh-huh.
yeah. So when he's incapacitated and the vote, the Epstein vote. So with the Epstein vote, we could also be seeing some retirements, and said retirements could create a congressional representative crisis where you're going to have special elections before 2026. And I'll lay you a bet that any inexperienced Democratic football coach at the high school level could run against any Republican congressman and win.
Yep, yep.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
funny, and
So
it's not just Epstein's files, though. By the way, that's going to make it tough for the Republicans. You get down to it. I'll give you an interesting example. Those SNAP benefits okay, with the with the now past shutdown of the government. Okay, one of
Recently
the
pointed
things.
out that it was Bob Dole who brought that to us.
What?
Bob Dole brought SNAP to us.
Oh,
Republican. Yeah,
he was the one that started the SNAP program.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
really? I did
yeah,
not know that.
yeah,
See,
yeah.
learn something.
So
See, folks, you
Republican
learn
from
something new every day
Kansas.
on this show.
From Kansas, combination. Not well. This was somebody reported it.
Yeah, yeah,
Some man from Kansas looking to help the farmers and to help the poor, help the
yeah.
hungry.
Well, he
But
helps out two groups at once. Yeah.
he worked with George McGovern, and he worked with George McGovern on it.
Uh huh.
And the
Well, back in the
by the
day when bipartisanship actually was
yeah, exactly,
bipartisanship.
exactly, yeah. Help farmers feed poor people. What an idea!
Yeah, but
But not anymore.
and folks, just so you understand, when with what Tim is saying, that when you in the case of Bob Dole, his goal was to help out the farmers. The reason he's trying to help out the farmers is that they were all complaining because they've got these bins full of wheat and corn and what have you sitting in their farms, and they're trying to get rid of it. So
Right.
what best way to get rid of it than to have the government buy it? And it wasn't just SNAP, by the way. U.S. aid also was
Also
another
did that.
means in which we got rid of a lot of crops because we have an over.
Stabilizing farm
Yeah,
stabilization. Is all,
when people talk about people starving in the most powerful nation in the world, they got a good point because of the fact that we've got to literally sell almost half of what we grow in this country
Yeah.
to somebody else because we can't consume it.
Right.
And that it is just amazing. By the way, the guy you were talking about earlier, who is our treasurer, U.S. He's the U.S. Secretary of the Treasury. He's not the treasurer. He's the U.S.
Right.
Secretary of the Treasury. Okay, his name is Scott Bessent.
The cent.
Okay,
Right.
and in some of the stuff that I just looked up here, they're basically he's not on the list in any shape or form. They have here's the list of potential heirs to Donald Trump. It's J.D. Vance, who we talked about,
Yes.
Ron DeSantis,
Yes.
Elise Stefanik, and
Oh my
Donald
God.
Trump Jr. and possible. Well, here's the reasons why. Okay, one, obviously J.D. Vance is vice president. Okay, and all that. And he's Ron DeSantis. Well, he's an institutional challenger. Okay, kind of thing. Right. Elise Stefanik is, a so-called ambitious insider.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump, of course, Donald Trump Jr. is, the dynasty continues, and
Well, he's
all
the prince.
that.
Yeah, he's the prince
Yeah.
that should, by
And,
all rights, inherit the throne.
yeah, really. And wild cards are Nikki Haley, Byron Donalds. Trump endorsed for Florida government, and he's a rising, maggot. And then we got Casey DeSantis, Florida's first lady.
Ah. Now, not on here. So Rubio, where's Rubio? Rubio's not
He's
on here.
not on the list. He's not on the list here.
Probably thinks out loud.
Surprisingly enough,
Huh.
I find that
Well, that's a
interesting.
thin ass branch. Now that Stefanik's running for governor of New York,
Yeah.
because when she goes, she's probably not going to elect it on her district. How the heck does she think that communist New York is going to run her for governor,
Oh,
make her governor?
did you hear that Trump is going to be talking with Mandami? They're going to have a conversation. They'll get things worked out. He said. Yep, he's
I don't know
supposed to
how
meet
that's
with him.
going to go. I don't know how that's
Yeah,
going to
it should be interesting to watch that one
go.
and all that.
The
But then let's do the comparison that we were
yeah,
talking about earlier. Okay, we just took a look at the Republicans bench and very
yeah,
much there. And quite honestly, I see a lot of infighting happening because again, none of these people have the loyalty of the Trump of the Trump of the Republican base that Trump has, that Trump
yeah,
controls. Okay,
yeah.
he goes. There's going to be an all-out fight, as to who becomes the heir apparent,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And they still, and again, it's kind of like what we've said before at times. What was that famous line that somebody said to somebody about where they basically none of these people are Donald Trump.
which is both a good thing, but also for them a bad thing. They're
Exactly.
just not going to. By this time, by the time any of this happens, there's certainly going to be pushback on the Epstein issue, however it goes tomorrow,
Oh
and
yeah.
the crisis in the House, I think, and but then by comparison, you were saying so. The likely Democrats. I mean, we have just our governors alone, starting with
Uh,
Newsom, going to Pritzker, going to Shapiro, going to Bashir, going to okay, sexism coming here, Michigan, um,
yeah. Yeah.
Gretchen,
Oh, yeah, the Michigan governor. Yes.
yeah, yeah, New
And
York governor, probably not, but Gretchen in
Gretchen, yeah,
Michigan,
Gretchen.
and then in North Carolina, and in Virginia, and in New Jersey. Well, New Jersey, will we ever produce a president
Whitmer.
from New Jersey? Well,
Gretchen
we did.
Whitmer. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gretchen
Whitmer, and then
Whitmer.
yeah, and although the two electees out of now they did Barack Obama early, but you got two elected women in New Jersey and Virginia, and then North Carolina, that guy's name escapes me because it's the South, and so a huge deep bench, and then the deep bench for the Senate, I think, and the House,
Uh-huh.
I think, is an easy win. And I think that the Senate, may be doing the delusional Democrat thing here, but maybe even these senators are going to have to vote on the Epstein file release also.
Right.
And you're right,
You know.
and it's going to put them heads on the chopping block, as they would say in France.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. So the it's going to be, well, it could be boring. could be could be could be Dooley for president.
Oh my God. You know.
Dooley for president.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, what a step there. From being a high school football coach to
President.
becoming
Yeah,
president of
yeah,
the
yeah.
United States.
Sounds like a very bad movie. Sounds like a
Only,
very,
only in the United States could that happen.
yeah, right, right. Very bad
Well,
movie. Very bad movie.
supposedly that's the idea. It used to be that teachers and moms would sit there and tell their sons, and the boys,
Yeah,
that become president of the United States. It's very possible in this country,
yeah, yeah.
so that I mean, look at you take Abraham Lincoln. I mean, went all the way from a log cabin to being president of the United States. I mean, that's basically
Well,
how a
but
lot of
he
that
was a
got
he
started.
served in Congress. He served in Congress. He served,
Yeah.
ran multiple times, served in Congress, and then lost because he didn't support the war against Mexico. He was a pacifist. He was a pacifist.
Uh, yeah.
So
And let's not
we have
forget
this.
we've got other guys too. We got Pete Buttigieg.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Let's not
yeah.
forget
Is there
Pete.
anybody else in the cabinet that was elected to something that might be
And we
interesting?
and of course Kamala Harris is probably going to try to
There's
run
a
again.
still out there.
But so like we're saying, the Democrats have a huge bench.
Yeah,
And all that. And myself personally, I see at least two, three, possibly four people, but Whitmer, Pritzker, and Newsom, and for me, the biggest reason I would support them is not because of what they said and everything, but they're people who have run something.
yeah,
They've run an enterprise, okay,
yes,
called a state,
yes.
and they happen to be, three of the biggest states, in the country,
Yeah.
and all of that. The United States government is not an easy thing to run, okay, and so you don't, so to get a legislator in there, somebody from the Senate or a representative or somebody who was, a state legislator or a state senator or something like that, to become president of the United States. Now, mind you, there are exceptions. There are exceptions to the rule. I'll grant you that. But in general, I think somebody who was a governor, heck, dare I say it, even the mayor of a town in Indiana. But these people run things. They've run
Right,
things.
right.
Okay, and I think we benefit from that kind of experience.
Yeah.
And that
I
I
think.
don't see any of the Republican bench having those
I mean,
that.
the Republican bench in Illinois is just the biggest bunch of lunatics you can possibly imagine, losers and lunatics.
Hmm.
We produced Ed Martin for the country, for instance, and then Senator Schmidt, he was also a Raven. He was one of the ones pushing the state to sue for the election, Trump's election fraud crap. So
Hmm.
yeah, Missouri has nothing but lunatics on the Republican side, and which over time has diminished our Democratic bench here. But when things change, and we'll see.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, didn't
I
they?
mean,
Didn't some judge just turn around and was it Missouri? There was a judge who said about the congressional districts, the gerrymandering that they tried to do, and they're making
I'm
them
not
go
sure about. I
back.
should know Missouri, but Indiana, not a judge, but the Indiana legislature said nope. Indiana said nope. We're not going to do it. You
Well,
know.
Illinois legislature is saying this, basically the same thing. They're not interested in doing it either. I think a lot of
So
that
that
has to
you,
do, yeah, they've already
yeah,
gerrymandered the daylights out
yeah.
of it.
And it's got to do. You got to do this highway. You follow the highway from Naperville all the way down to Edwardsville. You
Yeah.
know.
Oh my God,
Yeah, that would
that
not.
would be
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
insane.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, well, I know
And there
out.
are Democrats.
Yeah, and what did they do in Utah too? They tried out in Utah. I'm just trying to remember. There's some
Yeah,
a federal.
they tried it in Utah, and Utah. I don't know if the court pushed back, if the Utah court pushed back, or I think the Utah court, not the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court
Yeah, it
made a
was a
decision.
Utah court. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Salt Lake City's Democrat,
Right.
and yeah, its own district, and it will remain Democrat. It will, remain
And then,
a
of
so.
course, we got the Republicans suing in California. You know, isn't it
No,
funny? They're sitting there saying, that they're accusing the Democrats of basically what they're doing at this moment.
right,
Okay, because you look at it, Texas, Indiana, Missouri, you go right on down the list, and they're all trying to gerrymander their states without even talking with the voters. They're taking the
right,
voters
right.
for granted.
Yeah, and the Democratic
California
states,
puts it on the
Democratic
ballot for
states,
crying out loud.
yeah.
You know?
Also,
Jeez.
we look at Florida, and I think Florida may be. I'm not that familiar with Florida's districts, but they may be like in Illinois' position. They they create another Republican district would be damn near impossible without going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they risk undermining other districts when they do that. That's been one of the risks they've been. Perhaps they've done that in Texas too.
Yeah.
There's a good chance that the Republicans have screwed up the next couple of elections every which way possible. In their
Yeah.
effort to undermine them, they've just screwed themselves royally.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And then add on top of that their message, okay, which people are slowly, realizing that the message is not for the working guy out there
no,
at all.
no,
And
yeah,
as they start, I remember we were talking about SNAP earlier, and the point I was trying to make with SNAP was that if you look at the big beautiful bill, okay, this budget bill, they're going to cut out the SNAP funds after the 2026 election. That was the plan.
yeah,
But then along comes the government shutdown. And all of a sudden, they got to cut out, sending any money to people with SNAP benefits and everything. So basically, what happened, and Trump was trying to figure out how to get around this because it wasn't in his plan to do it that way until after 2026. So
yeah,
they just gave all of these folks, especially in the South, who use a lot in the way of SNAP benefits, a taste of what's to come. And so they didn't want to have that happen. So it shows the incompetency at times, of these
yeah,
people. They can't even run the government for crying out loud,
yeah,
and that so that message is getting out, and slowly people are beginning to realize, hey, this is not what we bought. This is
no,
not what we were expecting at all,
yeah,
and all that. Which is why you saw a doubling of the No Kings rallies.
yeah,
I mean, literally from the first one to the second one, it literally doubled, in
yeah,
size. And we have another one. I'm sure it'll triple.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that you see the election results that are coming
yeah,
up.
yeah,
So and a lot of local elections, but the Democrats won hands down without a problem.
yeah.
And so he's freaking out. So folks, this is why we've got the gerrymandering going on. This is why you've got things hidden in that budget of theirs so that they don't take effect until after this next election, because they don't want people to realize what it is that they're doing to them. So
One last thing, maybe looking down the road here, again back to Epstein for a moment, and to
hmm
the the other people that are likely named in the Epstein files, and the connections between Epstein, this wealthy clique of pedophiles, and the and financial institutions could be finally. It's like what do we have to do to get financial reform in this country?
Yeah. Yeah.
is to
Yeah.
is to show how many pedophiles are involved in it. So
And
a friend of mine who came from a semi on the edge prominent family said that because he's seen bad things, and he said one of the things about the wealthy and this pedophilia thing is that the thrill they haven't had yet. You know, a thrill they have. They just it's the sickness of it. There's a sickness to it, and it's when you have that much wealth and power, and you have that kind of access, then you just fulfill your prurient interest or whatever.
yeah, that's right.
When
That's
we
right.
see that, when we get that exposed, but that'll be a challenge for the Democrats there to, have the CIA pull the Trump family members out. Wait a minute, how should I say this? Yeah, arrest the Trump family members out of Buenos Aires. Doesn't it seem like Buenos Aires is just Argentina was just down payment on future residences?
Yeah, really. I hadn't thought about that one. That's a good point. Because everybody's wondering why is it that we're supposed to be America first, but yet we're bailing out Argentina,
Yeah.
and we're
Do
going
you
out
remember
and
that
doing
when
doing
they
bombings
announced
for Israel.
Musk was going to head up Doge, and
Yeah,
they gave him the big golden chainsaw?
chainsaw. Yeah,
Yeah, that CPAC. The
the
little
president of
guy
Argentina
with
was
the
there.
hair, with the big hair. That's
Yeah,
the president of Argentina.
right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
So, yeah,
And it's not just residents. Keep in mind too that there's a bunch of us, tech bros or whoever, people who have invested a bunch of money in Argentina, and they're looking at this and going, wait a minute, these guys, we're going to lose money on this deal,
yeah,
and because they can't bail too easily. So you get the government, the U.S. government to prop them up so that these guys have the time to bail, and then maybe he'll probably pull the funds. Maybe he'll start a war against them or something like that. I mean,
Well,
Venezuela's not the only
that's
country there.
we haven't even talked about Venezuela. That's another thing for another program. You know, yeah.
That's another program.
And
Hey,
again,
another program. Go ahead.
I don't think they looked at the map very well on that one.
No, he hasn't.
No,
No, he
no,
hasn't. And
no.
Chile, right next door, apparently is having a fight. They gotta have what do they call that? A runoff election.
Wasn't it
Okay,
Colombia?
in Chile,
Oh,
because the president, apparently the so-called communist presidential candidate, probably just a socialist, probably a social democrat,
uh,
and all this, and then the conservative, candidate are in a dead heat at the moment,
mhm.
and so that should be interesting. But hey,
Yeah.
we got future programs, folks, where we can talk about that. And hey, an example of behind the scenes stuff that Tim and I both have told people, quit watching the distractions so much and take a look at what's actually going on behind the scenes. Take a look at the FCC and what a guy named Carr is doing there, and I think you'll be fascinated, with what
He's not
he's
shocked.
doing. Yeah, he is doing things behind the scenes that'll just, boggle your brain, and it's not good things. So, with that, folks, our time is up. So, my name is Rich Garling, and
I'm Tim Bagwell.
we're two grumpy old men. Bye bye.
Bye bye.